Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you that are just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you some techniques that I use every day in my own voiceover business, and I answer your questions. So, what I wanted to talk about today was if you're just at the very beginning stages of even thinking about getting into voiceover and you're wondering, this sounds like a lot of fun, but how do I get into it? Do I need an agent? What kind of equipment do I mean? You know what I mean? You're right in the beginning stages of this and you're wondering, where do I find this work? What do I do? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into it. When you first discover voiceover, there's either one of two things that you come across first that you really want to do more than the other. As an example, for me, I found audiobook narration first, and then I discovered the voiceover side. So for you, if you discovered the voiceover side first, then this part is not quite for you. However, learning how to narrate audiobooks is a lot more technical than recording voiceover. There's still a lot of elements of formatting and editing, of course, for both, but audiobook narration needs specific parameters for the files to adhere to. So narrating audiobooks for me was a little bit, it was difficult to start, of course, but once you learn your DAW, which is your digital audio workstation, I use Adobe Audition to record and edit my audio files. But once you're more familiar with your DAW and you know how to specifically format files for audiobook narration or for audiobook production, then learning how to format files for voiceovers is so much easier. So that is why I chose the route that I did, is I went into audiobook narration first. And if you choose to go into audiobook narration first, then I would first recommend having a love for books, because the more you enjoy books, the more you're going to enjoy audiobook narration, and the more feeling, the more you're going to put yourself into that audiobook narration instead of just reading something because it needs to be read. So if you're into audiobook narration as your first step, then I would recommend taking a look at ACX. ACX is an arm of Amazon where the books that are on Amazon for sale, the author can then convert, or has the option to convert that ebook or print copy into an audiobook version. And then ACX is where the author and narrators meet and come together to produce that audiobook. And let me just show you really quick. And this is the homepage for ACX. And ACX also will distribute your audiobook production not just to Audible, but also to iTunes and a few other distributors as well. Where that book goes after it's done with production, after you're done producing it, is really up to the author. The author is going to determine where that book is going to be heard. So potentially this book could be on several distributors, or it could just be on Audible. Again, that is up to the author. And there's a few different pay types that you need to consider if you decide to jump into ACX or audiobook narration. First, there's pay for production, which means you are basically paid for the production for the audiobook, and you will not receive any other financial interests in the book going forward. You are paid for the production of that audiobook. And the next way to be paid is what is called royalty share, where you share in the royalties with the author on every sale of that audiobook. And it breaks down to, through ACX, ACX gives a 40% payment of each royalty, or 40% royalty for each sale of the book, and then the author and the narrator share that 40%, so each gets 20% of each unit sold. And then there is Royalty Share Plus, which is sort of a hybrid between the two, where there is typically a smaller pay-for-production fee that is paid to you at the completion of the production, and then also you then share royalties going forward. So there's a few ways to do it on ACX. But if you're still not sure about producing an audiobook for money up front, if you're anything like me, I was a little bit hesitant to do that until I really understood what it took to produce an audiobook. So if you want, you can start at a place called LibriVox.org. And this is exactly what I did. And this is where you volunteer to read sections, chapters, or books in their entirety. And these are all books that are in the public domain. So you volunteer your narrating skills. And of course, these need to be formatted fairly close, if not the same, to ACX's requirements. So in doing this before you jump into ACX, you will get a better feel for how to narrate, where to control your breaths, things of that nature. And then also the editing and formatting process, which is very, very important when it comes to submitting your files to ACX because they need to be within specific parameters for their file requirements, which if you're not really technically inclined, and in the beginning, we all just kind of went, I have no idea what this means. Doing this before you jump into ACX will help you to learn that formatting process without any kind of time constraints. So this would be something that I recommend that everybody get started with before you jump into ACX. But of course, it is your business. It's your call. But this is a very good option to start with before jumping into ACX. If you're looking to get into audiobook narration and voiceover or vice versa, you can also offer your services on a couple of freelance marketplace sites, one of which is Fiverr. Now, there are a lot of opinions about Fiverr, and Fiverr has come a long way in the last few years in kind of ditching the stigma that it had that everything was $5. That is not the case. I haven't been paid for a $5 order in years. That is not the case anymore. Fiverr is a great place to get started. It does take a little bit of time in the beginning because these are gigs. These are individual gigs for different types of voiceover services. And not just voiceover services. Fiverr is any kind of freelance skill or anything that you could think of is on Fiverr. I highly recommend that you take a look and just see what is available there. But in the voiceover category, these are all gigs based on whatever you want to offer, whether it's audiobook narration, commercial reads, e-learning, ADR or dubbing, impersonations, voicemail messages, whatever you want to offer, you can offer here on Fiverr as a gig. And of course, with Fiverr, there are different levels of seller. There's different seller levels. For instance, in the very beginning, you start out as a sort of a entry-level gig seller. And getting that social proof, getting that first review is going to be just very important. But it does take some people a while before they get their first order. So don't be discouraged if you get onto Fiverr and it takes you a couple of months before you see that first order. There is what they call buyer's requests. When you sign up to be a seller on Fiverr, there are buyer's requests that you can submit bids to. For jobs, it's a great way to market yourself on Fiverr, through Fiverr to other buyers on Fiverr. And then as you start to doing more and more business, you will begin to climb up the ranks and level, so to speak, on Fiverr. And then that is when you'll start to see repeat clients. You'll start to see more high dollar orders. And a lot of people have made a lot of money on Fiverr doing voiceover and audiobook narration as well. Anything that you can think of that involves voiceover can be done through Fiverr. And then another place that I recommend, which is similar to Fiverr, is Upwork. This is I think the third place that I signed up to in the very beginning myself. I started on ACX, then I signed up with Fiverr, and then I signed up with Upwork. And Upwork is another freelancer marketplace site where there are tons of different freelancers offering different types of skills and deliverables. And voiceover is also, of course, offered on Upwork as well. Voiceovers for commercials, just like Fiverr for commercials, for voiceover recordings or phone message recordings, audiobooks, anything that you can think of. And it's similar to Fiverr. You can also place bids on jobs, or you can make a stellar profile and have people contact you to interview for their jobs. So there's a couple of different ways to do that as well on Upwork. Of course, there are other sites that are specifically for voiceover, like voices.com, Voice123, there's Badalgo, there's Voice Bunny, Voice Jungle, Voice Giant, Voquent. There are literally, I think, over 100 of them. But these gig economy websites like Fiverr and Upwork, but Fiverr and Upwork have been shown to been a quicker start into voiceover, getting your business up and running a little bit faster through Fiverr and Upwork. And in the beginning, you can offer a little bit of a lower price for your gigs, which will entice more buyers to come and click on your gigs. And that's completely normal. But no one says you have to keep your price the same forever. And then as you start to get the hang of, recording and editing and formatting through Fiverr and Upwork, then you can branch out to some of these other websites as well, like voices.com and Voice123. But for me personally and the people that I work with, Fiverr and Upwork seem to have a little bit of a quicker start into earning jobs and getting your voiceover business growing. So that's why I recommend those two to start in. But of course, these are just my recommendations and how I got started. You can choose to do whatever you like, whatever's more comfortable for you. But whichever site that you choose to get started on, just make sure that you give it the appropriate time, the appropriate focus. Don't give up. Again, don't be discouraged if things don't happen right away. That is completely normal if it doesn't. Just in the beginning, make sure that your thumbnails are nice and easy to read. You have great pictures of yourself on there because consumers like to see who they're working with, right? Take a look at what some of the other users are doing for their descriptions. How are they wording it? What are their pricing structures? So before you post those gigs on Fiverr and Upwork, take a look at what other people are doing on their profiles or their gigs so you have an idea of what to post for yourself. And another thing I want you to consider before you even create these profiles is how are you going to be known? Because a lot of these sites won't allow you to change your username once you get started. So take a moment and consider what you're going to be using as a username. For example, I'm VoiceOverAngela. I am VoiceOverAngela everywhere. So I'm very easy to find online. If you pull up Google and type in VoiceOverAngela, you're going to find pretty much all of my sites, every which way to find me online. So that is important to me for branding. But consider in the beginning if you're going to use an AKA like VoiceOverAngela, or if you're going to use your name. But just keep in mind that you won't be able to change it later on. So make sure it's not something obscure, right? Like user123. Give it some thought and give yourself a good username and try to stick with that username for every other profile. That'll make you easy to find. So I hope that helps you kind of get started in voiceover and or audiobook narration. I really hope that helps. And if you would like any more information about me, my work, or how I can help you get started in voiceover or audiobook narration, check out my website, voiceoverangela.com. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. I really appreciate that. And as always, I appreciate your time and for watching this video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.